Hello everybody, today I'm going to show you My Little Monster's current progress. Uh, for those of you who are not aware of what My Little Monster is or just simply need to recap, My Little Monster is a children's-ish slash teenagers game. What happens is you raise your character or your monster and you train it new commands, and you take it into battle and you can fight other monsters and players with your monster, and you earn money, and then you can either continue using your monster and train him up, or you can trade him in and get a new monster once you have acquired enough money to buy a bigger or better monster. Now, I'll go ahead and start playing the game so you can start seeing some of these aspects coming to life. We haven't finished the game, but I'll go ahead and show you where we're at currently. This is just our game's current intro screen. I'll go ahead and try to squeeze this in here so we can see everything. Alright, I need a new game. I'm going to go ahead and create my name. Now we have a boy and a girl that we can choose from. I'm going to go ahead and just show you the boys. We have humans, fairies, wizards, goblins, and a witch. Or warlock in the case of a boy. I'm going to go ahead and go with the boy wizard. I'm going to flip through here. And I'm going to go with the redhead guy. There's lots more options, by the way. There's a total of 120 character combinations total. So there's 120 possibilities of characters that you can choose for your character. This is your player itself. This is not your monster. This is just your player. Alright, so your player has some attributes that I need to set up here. So let's go with monster control, because that's going to help me tell my monster, or my monster is going to obey my commands when I give them to him. And then I want my monster to have some commands that he can do. I want to do some healing, and I'll worry about lore later on. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and save my profile. I'm going to just rename it, or I'm going to save it under my test. I'm going to replace that one, and now my profile's saved. I'm going to go ahead and load up a new game. I'm sorry, load up my monster selection now. I'm sorry. Alright, so this is where we actually pick our monster, or if we wanted to sell our monster and buy a new monster. Currently, right now, I'm starting a new game, so obviously I only have $10,000. So what's going to happen here is this menu right now, just so you guys know, though, is not complete. What happens here, though, is this is where I pick my monster. What I can see right here, this menu may change, by the way, is I can see what is available on this monster currently, like what attacks it offers, and whatnot. I may change this menu around because right now it's not very user friendly, so I'll probably adjust it to be a little bit larger, to where this will probably be maybe in the center and the picture will be over here slightly larger or something. I'll adjust the screen probably sometime in the near future. But anyway, let's go ahead and go down the list of monsters that we have available. So let's go ahead and see here. Let's go ahead and look at some with color. We'll go back to the dragon. We'll see it. As you can see, dragons have some color. The T-Rex, he has some color too. Now, the T-Rex is obviously not like a monster, like not what you would think of like a traditional monster. Nevertheless, I threw him in there because I thought it was kind of cool to have a dinosaur. We do have some mythological characters, of course. It's primarily what a lot of these creatures are based off of is mythology. Of course, the dragons have two bases for mythology, and it'll actually explain that to you down here in the character lore. There's the European version, and then there's the Chinese or Asian version of the dragon. And they have a lot of similarities, but they're also have a lot of differences, and you can read about that down here. Alright, so anyway, here's the T-Rex. Here's our Griffin. Just flip through some of the color choices. Here's Pegasus. yada yada yada. Now this one's going to generate an error because we don't have it ready yet, but I want to go over this error real quickly with you. Alright, so what has happened here is that we don't have this image in here. It's not ready. It's not in the game. It's not ready. So this is why I'm getting an error. It's telling me in the title, it's telling me image missing, and then it's telling me I'm missing orange and then the monster's name. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with this monster, and please forgive me because I can't pronounce its name, but nevertheless, it is a real monster or a mythological creature. This is an Aztec creature. It's very common in the Aztec culture. And the reason why I put this creature in here is because it's not common to see Aztec creatures in any game. Or any of their mythology or any of their theories or anything. It's not common. We typically see mostly European and Chinese mythology or Asian mythology. We don't really see any African mythology, like Australian mythology, if such a thing existed, which I don't think it does. South American mythology, North American prior to European exploration. We don't really see a whole lot of mythology, like maybe Native American mythologies. We don't really see any of those. It's primarily Asian and European. So with this game, we wanted to really include some things that are really not there, or that you don't commonly see. To try to introduce people to, that there is more than just dragons in the world. There's a lot more in the world as far as mythology goes. Alright, now, speaking of the Greeks, though, we have the Gorgon. Medusa is the most commonly person who's portrayed as a Gorgon. And she was transformed into a Gorgon. I'm probably not going to post the full story because it's kind of graphical. The story on how and why she was transformed into a Gorgon. But I'll go ahead and explain it here. Basically what happened was she was a beautiful priest. She was envied by all the women in her village. And the god of the sea wanted to marry her, blah, 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 blah. She refused because she had to remain pure. So he tricked her, and then he ended up raping her. Now, in the Greek mythology or in the Greek culture, if a woman was raped, it was considered her fault. It was not the man's fault. It was her fault for basically being too beautiful, in this case. So the gods punished her by transforming her into a Gorgon. Now, there's more to the story, of course. I highly recommend that you read about it. But because this is a children's game, I'm probably not going to put the, how, or the story of how she became transformed, because it is rather graphical for a child to read about a person who was raped, and according to the Greek culture, it's the woman's fault, which we, clearly can say that's not right. I mean, it's not a good thing to try to, teach children. Nevertheless, that is the true story, as to the best of my knowledge at least, of Medusa. But she was actually a part of a whole class, or, this character type. So, that's in there. Next we have the Gremlin. This is not to be confused with the 1980s movie Gremlin, or Disney's idea of a gremlin. The gremlin actually, again, comes from, I believe, the Greek culture originally. So this is our artist depiction of a gremlin. And this is actually what we're going for, is a real gremlin, not like a Hollywood gremlin. Next is the Cyclops. I believe there is several references to Cyclops in Greek mythology. I believe the Odyssey, if I remember correctly, was the most famous. Nevertheless, this is the Cyclops. He's a monster. Next is the Werewolf. Werewolf's a bit of a Hollywood monster, I believe. I believe it was more or less created by Hollywood. Nevertheless, it is a timeless classic monster, and we really felt like it needed to be in here. So we created him and put him in here. This is obviously our depiction of a werewolf. As you notice, none of these characters are extremely scary looking. and that's intentional because this is designed to be a children's game, so we wanted them to be cute and cuddly and friendly, even though, you know, in Hollywood and movies and whatnot, and stories, we depict them as, you know, ferocious man-eating creatures. So this is kind of like they're your little friend. Next we have the vampire. He's a little spooky, but still kind of cute and cuddly in my opinion. Nevertheless, vampire, once again, I believe... Well, actually, the vampire was, I believe, created in the 1800s in a book, and that was later on in the 1900s depicted in a famous movie. And that's what people mostly remember vampires by, but I believe it was originally created in a book. Zombie, you know, honestly, I'm not sure where zombies came from. Like, what book actually created, you know, the idea of a Walking Dead corpse? Nevertheless, we have zombies. The next creature we have is demons. Demons have been around forever. I believe they started again with Greek mythology. Something about Rye or something, I don't know. There was a god of demons or something, I don't know. Not like a Greek mythology specialist, but I know they've been around since pretty much the dawn of time, or at least the concept. Unicorns. Everybody loves unicorns. Again, I'm not sure where the unicorn came from. I assume it has to come from either a book or an ancient culture / mythology. It's probably, if I had to guess, a depiction of Pegasus or some variation. Minotaur. Minotaur is definitely came from the Greeks, I believe. To the best of my knowledge, at least, I'm pretty sure that's where they came from. And last but not least is Frankenstein. Obviously, he is not in here. Speaking of Pegasus, Pegasus should be on this list, and there's Pegasus. I don't remember if I went over the Pegasus or not. Nevertheless, there's Pegasus. Frankenstein, once again, is not finished, unfortunately. So he is not available to show you. I do apologize for that, but we are working on that. And for those of you who are watching this, who are Kickstarter backers, we have not gotten to the point yet either where we have created the Kickstarter monsters yet for you to show you. And if you're watching this before we posted this on Kickstarter, there will be 2 characters that are Kickstarter only. There will be a player that's Kickstarter only, and there will be a monster that's Kickstarter only. If you do not back the project during the Kickstarter process, it's sorry, Charlie, you will not have access to it ever. That key, or those keys, will only be given to unlock that content during Kickstarter or after the Kickstarter process. Alright, so we will probably never ever release that, and it will be Kickstarter only. So if you want to get those, you need to back us on Kickstarter when we post a Kickstarter project. Alright, so that's currently all we have for right now. I haven't finished the next menu, and I do apologize once again for that. But what you can see here so far is that we have created quite a bit so far for the game. Sorry, I don't have any attack details for Pegasus or Frankenstein. Might have something for the T-Rex, I do. So we'll go ahead and go over these real quickly. And I'll explain the attack system real quickly. Alright, so what we have here is we have the command name. And you have to have monster control of 10 or higher to tell him to perform this command. And it's going to do 25 damage. And it's going to cost him -0 endurance. So it's a default attack. One of his default attacks. Endurance, very similar to mana. The reason why I decided to go with endurance because the monster is doing the attack, and it's not necessarily using magic. It's most of it's going to be physical body movements, or you know, anytime he does something, it's going to require some kind of endurance or energy. You know, to perform the attack. So instead of using a mana system, which is very commonly overdone a million times, I decided to create the idea of endurance. Now, this attack system may or may not change in the future. I don't know. This is currently what I've came up with. and you use endurance. So that's pretty much what's going on right now. It costs you endurance to perform these attacks temporarily or currently. That could change. So anyway, that's the concept, and once again, down here you have fun little facts about the T-Rex if I can get down there. There we go. And it talks about the lore and the history of the T-Rex. To give you an idea, -10 is, I believe, the most endurance that you're going to use per attack. However, there was going to be an attribute system for the monsters, definitely. The next screen that you would go to after you bought your monster would be the attribute system, where you would set the attributes for your monster. Each monster will have its own default attributes already set for the creature. Like a dragon's already going to have their attributes already set, and the T-Rex will have their own, yada yada yada. Plus, you'll get 10 additional attributes to adjust even further. Depending on the monster and depending on the price, will determine how high or how low the attributes are already be preset for you. Obviously, the more you pay, the stronger the monster will probably be. Like a dragon will probably be extremely strong, it'll be extremely expensive. As opposed to a zombie, which is a humanoid type character who's strong, but I mean, we're talking about a Walking Dead corpse. It's not exactly this most intelligent thing in the world or the most strongest. Its biggest claim to fame is that it can bite you and infect you. So it's probably going to be a lot weaker than, say, a dragon or I don't know, like, I don't know. Him and Frankenstein would probably be comparable. So that's what we're working on right now, currently, with My Little Monster. Please post your thoughts. Let me know what you like and what you don't like. Remember, this is a children's game, or it's geared toward children. I would say between the ages of 10 and 15. Obviously, there are some adults who probably will want to play the game. I want to play the game personally. I'm ready to play it. But nevertheless, that's really what our target audience is, the younger kids. Alright, so thank you for watching, and once again, please subscribe and please post your thoughts.